Hello, and welcome to the first Design Feeling event of 2022, and also the first ever Design Feeling event. And thank you so much for joining us. Um, we have the pleasure, well, I have the pleasure of inviting some expert guests in this live panel tonight, which I will definitely introduce you to you guys. But before we get started, let me just introduce myself. And you might be wondering, who the hell is this guy here? So my name is Nirish Shakya, and I'm a designer, educator, and coach, and the host of my new podcast, Design Feeling, which will be launching next Thursday. And the session today is all about authenticity and creativity. So how can you bring your authentic selves into the workplace? And also, how can you be more freely creative when you're working and when you're solving problems, um, you know, with myself or with other people? So we all know, and there's also research that says that people who feel more free to be authentic, more themselves, perform better, right? And they're generally happier as well than people who don't feel or have that same freedom. So obviously, we know it's good for us. It's good for the motivation. It's good for the company, right? But it's not something that's easy for us to do or be in the workplace. There could be various reasons, and that's what we're trying to explore here with our guest tonight, in terms of what stops people from being more authentic and more creative, and what can we do about it, right? Either at an individual level, or maybe at a more of an organizational level. So I would like to now ask the guests to introduce themselves. First of all, I will pick Andrea.
Thank you, Nirish. Thanks for having me. I'm really delighted to be here. Topic close to my heart and close to all that I do, I would say. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm founder of a small consultancy called Culture by Design, which aims to bring the company's values off the walls into the lives of people. And at the same time, I also run another business together with my partner where we renovate houses. So for me, it's all about culture and space and the intersection between the two of them. And a lot of creativity required in that business, but just so much fun. And yeah, happy to be here.
Great. I mean, you're in the right space then. So thank you so much for joining us. Leo, why don't you go next?
Yes. Right. My name is Leo Wong, and I'm now based in London, and I'm from Hong Kong. And my first job, like 10 years ago, I was an experienced designer, but not really related to user experience. It's more like about show experience, how to do fancy experience to create wow effect. And then I changed my path to be more like a story-oriented designer and create different animations and storyboard and creatives. And then I changed my path into more marketing design. And actually, I play lots of different role in the past 10 years. And here I am. And I just relocate to London and exploring myself. And I met Nirish, and we're happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Leo. Felipe, why don't you go next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Felipe Zamana. I'm a Brazilian, but I live in Porto, Portugal. And I'm a professor and researcher of creativity. And I'm deeply curious about the process, the creative process. And I'm a former designer, so it's nice to be here with all of you.
Great. Thanks, Felipe. So we have Carlos. Well, I know Carlos from Brighton in the UK. And Kendra from Florida. Anya, welcome. Yeah, cool. So yeah, don't be shy. And Sandra from Portugal. Hi, Sandra, welcome. Cool. So yeah, please don't be shy to introduce yourself. And I've got also a little poll here for you. Hey, Jessica. Hopefully you should be able to see the poll. So if you go into the poll section, and also the guests, if you'd like to respond to this poll, please do respond authentically. Hi, Craig.
Oh, no. yeah, nothing.
Nothing's a little sexy.
Well,
isn't it?
no judgment here.
You can probably pull that off in Porto, but in Brussels or in London, I'd rather advise against it.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I once had a client who used to just, show up in meeting just without a shirt on because it was too hot where he was living, and it just became normal after a while. Cool. So we got a good mix actually. So Carla says you cannot respond to a poll authentically that offers the option of nothing. But I'm not sure if the people who are saying they're wearing work clothes are actually, telling the truth or not. But yeah, we'll trust them. But it looks like, business on the top and peaches on the bottom. That's my style as well a lot of times. So yeah, thank you for answering authentically. So one of my first questions is, and again, this is a question to Anna as well, who is participating in the chat. Apologies for that. With the New Year's resolutions, a lot of people are, looking for new jobs, or they've started new jobs or new challenges, as entrepreneurs. So when you're in a new environment, right, or when you're in a new office or a new workplace, what does being truly yourself or being truly authentic look like to you in an ideal world? So let me start off passing this question on to Leo.
Truly authentic. That's a very interesting question. I'm trying to recall the last time I'm feeling really authentic is my last job, when I was really confident at the beginning, because you kind of understand the holistic view of the company, of what they really needs, and what your skill set and what your personality could bring in to the team to have a positive impact and to bring in new opportunities to the company. At that moment, you have a very crystal clear understanding of all of that aspect. You could be very authentic of yourself, because I'm here to help and you need my help, and I kind of have that mindset in my mind. So I could be act like, okay, this is for your own good, and kind of have a more open-minded decision and to discuss with the new colleagues. And at that moment, I think it's a very comfortable status for me. And I have a very tough time before this job. At my previous job, I joined a company inside a marketing team. I am the only designer in that company, so it's kind of like I am the alien inside the marketing team, because they don't have any design languages, and you have to be made very proactive to spend extra time to explain why you're doing that decision, why you're making that changes. And this really, from that experience, it really helped me to be more authentic, because and also I have running some little sharing section with them, like every Monday we have a creative sharing section, and to share, what do you like, and how can we learn from that specific project, and how can we apply this idea into our upcoming projects. And these kind of sections also help me to blend in, to fit in into the environment. And kind of the more and more we communicate and share to each other, and more we feeling like we are in the same team with the same goal, same direction.
What about you, Andrea? Like, what does being truly authentic look like to you in an ideal world?
For me, in an ideal world, and assuming we're talking about work setting here, it is companies that care more about the human than just about a role description. And I feel there's a real power in bringing the whole personality to work, because we all have different interests, we have different sides of ourselves, and especially with positions being so highly specialized these days, you sometimes have a hard time filling these positions. And as someone that works in organizational culture, I'm a big fan of role-based models, where one person might have different roles that aren't necessarily within the same job. And I feel in order to run an organization like that, you need to have people that are comfortable sharing their full selves. But also as an organization, you need to be willing to have that flexibility to say like, okay, I have a guy that is working in customer service, but actually he's so brilliant with figures that I want him to do some small part of role in sales or in marketing analytics. So yeah, for me, I feel like it's this openness or this breaking actually down jobs into what are the capabilities and the skills that are requested for the different tasks, and then look for the people that have that, rather than trying to mold someone into a job description where they also feel like they need to hold up the appearance as if I'm just that.
And what about you, Felipe? Like, I mean, you research, creativity, and I'm assuming, being able to be truly yourself is one of the crucial, criteria for being able to act more creatively. What does that look like to you in an ideal world where you're fully authentic and fully creative?
Well, I recently read organizational behavior specialist said that always sometimes someone say to you to be yourself or be authentic. Remember that probably five people in the world truly know you for who you are and love you for that. So
Oh, wow.
I think sometimes could be tricky to be yourself or be authentic, because some of our characteristics or traits are very peculiar for everybody else. So in creativity research, we have this social restraints, or evaluations, if you prefer. When you have an idea, when you have something to contribute or share, you have to filter this idea for the social settings or the organizational settings or for the group settings, depending where you are. So you always have to measure and filter what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do, or trying to share before you actually do it. So I think authenticity could be this balance between being really yourself and sharing what is meaningful and for you, and what your group, where you are, could be a familiar group, a casual group, or a professional group, or even the society, and see how they react to it. Of course, sometimes we really want to provoke a response by saying something like I did, completely contrary for what people normally believe. So, but this is good too, because we inspire people and provoke people to think differently.
Yeah.
So in creativity, we see like that.
Yeah. Kaylee just said, she agrees with Andrea in terms of individualization. Adapting the role to the person rather than the other way around is way more powerful and rewarding. But one thing that we hear, and I'm guilty of this when I'm hiring people, when I've hired people, is that I look for that kind of fit. It's like, oh yeah, she's a right fit or he's a right fit. And you tell them, hey, you're a really good fit for this role, for this company, because you think and look and work exactly like us, right? And when you go in with that expectation from the company or from your boss or from your coworkers that you're there to fit in, right? How do you still try to fit in and still be your true self? Like that sounds like a very difficult balance to achieve.
Well, I think if it's open to anyone to respond, of course.
Yeah.
I think that could be by honesty. Sometimes we have a role, and you can fit in, but you have to be honest about who you are and who you like to work. For example, I'm not a fan of working in specific hours, so I don't like to get in the job like 9 and leave at 5, and not to work like that. I don't like it. It's not for me. but I like to work with schedules, for example. So you have to deliver something in 2 weeks. I work better like this. So I have to be honest about it, and then you can share. You can co-create this fitting with the company, with your team or your department. So I think honesty, it's always a good call.
I love how you use the words here, honesty and co-creation. And also Anya's added something to the discussion here about the difference between fitting in, which is more conformity, and belonging, which is more around acceptance. I guess acceptance from both sides. So Anna, you're still part of the discussions. Please do also drop your thoughts in the chat if you have any thoughts around this in terms of what does being authentic look like to you in an ideal world. So you go into a new company, right? And if people act very differently like you and you try to say something about it and you get shut down, you're like, that's not how things are done here. What can you do? Well, how would you respond to that?
Well, I have that experience before, and the first thing is you have to have the attitude of don't give up and don't because they shut down the conversation doesn't mean that you can't approach them again later on. And also, I think being authentic and is a very organic word. You can be authentic as well. At the same time, you can adjust your tone of voice and to adjust. It's the lots of aspect you can adjust to make the people surrounding you feel more comfortable, and just don't stop communication. And I think eventually they will at least listen to you. And I have that experience that colleague hate me for like 2 years, but at the last year he loves me basically. So just don't give up. But everyone have their different timeline.
That's a very different mindset to what Anna just put in the chat there. She says, maybe just quit, right? And she has apparently done that before, where she's quit an organization because she didn't feel like she fit there.
I'd like to piggyback on something that Leo just said around authenticity, because I feel we are all our personalities with our quirks and our different traits and with many different interests. And I feel being authentic doesn't necessarily mean that you show up with all of that all the time. I feel authenticity is, for me, the moment where I decide I show up like I am. I might not share everything that I am, but this not sharing doesn't feel restrictive. I think that is, for me, where I draw the boundaries, because even in your friendships, you are completely different friend to one person and to another. So why at work would you show up with everything and just like, oh, hey, speaking to the naked, I'm not wearing anything. I think there are nuances to it, as in to why you're not sharing everything, just because it's not of interest in this context and it's just not relevant, or is it something because you feel you're going to be socially sanctioned? Show up as your full self or show certain parts of yourself.
Yeah. We have a poll that's kind of related to that, which should be available now. When do you feel comfortable being authentic at work? Is it all the time, only with certain people, only in certain activities, for example, workshops or work drinks, or never? Okay, someone feels all the time. That's great. Only with certain people, 2 votes there. 3 votes for only with certain people. Anna says, I think it's up to the individual to decide if that experience will give them learnings or just be stressful. One thing about being in an environment that you don't immediately fit in is that you will be outside of your comfort zone. And the other side of what I had said before is that sometimes not fitting in can be an opportunity to grow and learn. Nice
I
one.
also feel like I don't want to take up too much talking space, but jumping on what Anna just said, I also feel like from an organizational perspective, there is something like hiring for fit, which for me is more like we share a common value base. But you shouldn't try, or you should avoid to hire only people that think like you, where you're not going to get any friction. Because you need that diversity of perspectives, and you need people that are different to you, because only then as a company you can be strong. So I feel there's a danger in saying we just hire people that fit within our culture, and to be too narrow-minded about where do we draw the line here.
It's true. It's true. And Anna brings something interesting here. It's about learning. And learning is always getting out of your comfort zone. Within your comfort zone is never learning. So, but also the comfort zone can be something that it's really important to you, and you don't want to let it go for a company or for a job. So I think it's, again, balancing these two things. Where at the, how do I say it in English? Sorry, I have to train more. I forgot some words. But you have to learn where you can actually learn and where you can actually be harmful for you, because it's against your values, against your what is important to you in a role, in a position in a company.
Yeah. So the most recent poll here, where we asked people, when do you feel comfortable being authentic at work? Most people say only with certain people. What is it about certain people that makes them feel more comfortable to be authentic, do you think? Do any of you feel more comfortable being more authentic with certain people in a work context?
I think it's a very natural human behavior, because if you're getting around with people with like-minded, I think you'll be more authentic, and like you're speaking with some people with some echo, and some of your opinions will be getting stronger and stronger in your mind, because you're getting around with some like-minded people, and you will be very comfortable at that moment. And maybe we fall into a trap of you'll be for narrow mind, but at the same time you can be but yeah, I don't know, this is really a tough question to ask. Maybe we need some more context setting to define what is some people. You may be very good in if you're authentic, but some, if you're not nice person to be that may be not a very good thing to do. I don't know.
We're getting a lot of conversations in the chat here. Excuse me. Jessica is saying that it can be really hard to navigate as a neurodivergent individual. What is a neurodivergent individual, Jessica? If you could maybe just explain to us, that'd be great as well. Since culture is unwritten and can be discerned through behaviors, and as Andrea said, doesn't always feed through from what's on the walls. Great. And also Kendra's pointing out in terms of the neurodivergence of a person as well.
Yes, okay. I can try. I'm not an expert on neurodiversity, but neurodivergent are, I would say, there's a neuromajority, which is like the majority of people thinks in a certain way, acts in a certain way, needs conditions, their surroundings to be in a certain way. And then you have people that, their brains are slightly wired differently. That might be that they're more open to input, they're more sensitive, they're just operating on a higher frequency, thinking faster, for example. So these are different traits of personalities. And it is true that the workplaces are designed just like our schools for the majority. And it is very hard to be authentic, especially as a neurodivergent person in the workspace, as it so often has this negative connotation. It's like, oh, you're too sensitive, or you're always just like jumping ahead and we can't follow you and you need to take us on the journey. I think what is often neglected is this notion that these people, as they take in more or see patterns where other people don't see patterns, actually super, super well placed to be incredibly creative. But we don't provide an environment for these people to contribute. First of all, because the workplace is often so stressful that these people just drop out of the workplace. And second of all, because our procedures is in how do we source ideas. Like, for example, you need to go to someone, you need to pitch the idea, meaning you need to be very comfortable and very convincing. You can have the most amazing ideas. If you don't like pitching these ideas in a classical setting, will never get heard. So yeah, that's hopefully answering a bit what Jessica was indicating.
Yeah, and I mean, now looking back at my own experience being a hiring manager, I've had quite a few designers for my team, and I remember hiring certain people who might have been more kind of neurodivergent, and personally, I found it difficult to work with them. I didn't have skills as a manager to manage them effectively. And I found that really frustrating, to be honest with you. And back then, I was thinking, I should just hire someone normal, right? Someone who just kind of gets the job done without being difficult. I'm sure there's a lot of managers out there like me who don't know how to kind of who don't have the skills, I guess, or maybe the right training or the mindset maybe to deal with diversity in the workplace. What can managers do about it?
That's a good question.
I do think. Sorry.
No, please go.
Yeah, Felipe, you started first. Go on.
Okay. I think managers have a tough job right now because we are talking even more and more about diversity and cultural inclusion, and people are traveling for another country like me. So they have to have a broad vision to see how they can connect all these people together, but not just be the boss, but be the leader. And maybe if they offer the example to how to deal with this kind of thing, could be more friendly for the environment of the work environment, to people to really connect and be more comfortable to share and be authentic, like we said. And I think managers just have to listen. To be honest, if they listen more to what people can bring to the table, maybe it could be easier for them to deal with this kind of thing. Because if the person share what it's important for them, and the values they really live by, so managers can see, okay, and like Andrea said, you can see patterns there. So that people like this and that other people like this too, so maybe they can work together. I don't know. So they connect people, and people do the hard work, let's say like this. So just be a connector and a listener. I think this would be the first start, or the first step for this change.
Yeah, I think you've sorry, Andrea, who's that?
I do feel it's oftentimes it's at a stage of awareness building. First of all, I feel like if you just perceive these people as being different, they're just like, by making a statement like that, it creates friction. So I feel like there is awareness to be gained at the manager level, but at the same time there is awareness, and that's really like a self-consciousness that is required from people that identify as neurodiverse, and I'm one of them. To say like, okay, what do I need? How do I operate best? How can I, what do I need to flourish? And how can I then bring all of this to a company, to an organization? And then I feel a lot of it is really blocked by this notion of I need control. So Felipe, like you mentioned, I don't like 9-to-5 settings. I feel also creativity can't be put in a box. And there are people who are most productive at 2 a.m. in the morning. But we just don't cater for that, because we say like, this does not work. And for me, that's a big issue.
Yeah, and Kaylee just mentioned here how she was less confident admitting when things didn't work out for her, but now she seems to be more kind of curious and experimental. And if something's not working for me, she will take more proactive steps to change the situation. And I can totally relate to that. I have been in a situation or jobs where I just thought I just need to just try to just fit in as much as possible and just stick it out, be a man, or all the other things that you hear. But it feels like there's a certain awareness that's increasing amongst people that who I am and what I need, and whether that need will be fulfilled in a certain context or a certain environment.
This is a good observation, Nirish, because I see in the research that if you offer people the minimum settings for them to live by and work, they are more easygoing in the rest. So if I have all the minimum I need to do my job and a good job, probably I will be more tolerable and more empathic or understandable with others, because their attitude don't directly affect me or my job or what do I have to do. So if you have a certain attitude in the work environment that affects me or compromise my job, or the quality of my job, I will get angrier and could be like create not a bad environment for work. But if you what you do don't affect my job directly, it's a good thing to create these connections with other people, and they are more easygoing. I think.
Yeah. And in terms of diversity, one fun fact about all the panelists here today, and including myself, is that none of us are native English speakers. And all of us have worked in cultures where we've had to speak a different language or something. And especially like Leo, you recently moved from Hong Kong, and you have plenty of experience as in the advertising industry there, and as a creative director and designer, managing a team. And you've mentioned to me that you found it really difficult to bring all that experience into the UK market, and also bring a lot of confidence that you had, back in Hong Kong. Could you share some of that story?
Wow. Yeah, I'm happy to share my vulnerability. And actually, I built up my career in Hong Kong for like 10 years, and everything was just so smooth, and I could like tackle everything and be managed people and being managed by someone, and everything work is I feeling really happy back in the old days in Hong Kong. But when I relocated to the UK, and the whole thing just changed because they have a different system. I mean, the hiring system are different, and the visual styles are different. And what you have did previously, the visual style may not be a perfect match to what they're looking for. And also, the hiring manager always mentioned about the cultural fit, which is pretty contradict with what they want to do to change the industry to be a more culturally diverse workplace, they mentioned. And yeah, I suffer a lot during my job hunting period in the UK. And eventually I just go to GA to study UX design, and yeah, here I am. And also, how can we really differentiate from cultural fit and how to fit into the team? And this is a really tough question when the hiring manager try to ask, and how can you fit in? Well, I can't really tell you how can I fit in until I really meet the people there. I could tell you my personality, but it's real vague, and I can tell lines to you. And oh yeah, I'm a very open-minded people, and I'm very outgoing. I like beer, and I can talk with you for whole days. But that's actually
Wait, are you saying you don't like beer?
I like whiskey, but not beer. The point is, everything I told there, maybe lines the manager may not know about that. So, is that kind of culture forced me to to do something I originally don't need to do, or I could just keep doing myself, being very authentic, and I can't get a proper full-time job. This is a question in my mind. And also, I think Philip mentioned earlier is about learning. It's a learning path there. You can be authentic, but at the same time, you have to go out from the comfort zone and learn something new. And once you acquire something new, you are still an authentic person, but just you change yourself to a maybe more advanced people, or maybe just a more cultural fit people. It's more about how you, what's your perspective about that. You can view it as a very negative way. Oh, the environment changed me into a different person. Or you can feel like, this environment make me to become a better person, for more engaging people. I think it's more like about how you face those reality and how you explain and how you interpret yourself.
Yeah. And speaking of environment, like, the environment where we work has changed drastically over the past couple of years, especially with the pandemic and working from home, remote working and hybrid working. I'm going to start another poll here. Where do you feel more authentic and creative? Is it when you're working from home, or when you're working in the office, or maybe both, or maybe neither?
Oh, I need like 5 other options, as in where I can be working from.
Maybe in nature, right? When you're going for a walk. Cool. So 4 votes for working from home, 1 for both, 1 for neither.
I would be intrigued, Nirish, if you don't mind, to hear people say like why it is that they feel more creative at home than at work. What makes that difference? If you guys that just voted could share in the chat.
Yeah.
Andrea, you know that pajamas enhance creativity. So
Kendra says for her, it's the authenticity is more task related than location. Could you give us an example if you can think of one, Kendra? Jessica says she can control distractions and her space more and time.
I think in this question, maybe the people feel more comfortable at home. So maybe, of course, not for everyone, of course, but being at home, it's more comfortable. I can say it for me because I really like to work at home, because I can wear wherever I want. If I want to be naked, I can. So
that was you who answered the question earlier.
Yeah. And like Jessica said, you can control your distractions and you control your time. I think this is great. And the distractions, it's an interesting thing, because you have 2 types of distractions, if you may say it like this, because at work, normally you're not being distracted, you're being interrupted. And at home, you can be distracted, of course, but you choose when and what is distracting you. So it's different, because when you get interrupted at work, it's like the sleeping stages. If someone wakes you up and you go to sleep back again, you have to start from zero. You don't start from where you are. So being interrupted, it's terrible for concentration and focus. So at home, okay, you have like that's little pauses to drink a coffee or to go to the bathroom, but it's not interruptions, it's just distractions. But right after, you can go back for where you are, or quickly get back for where you are. So it's, I think, this difference from working from home and working from the office make these changes in the scenario.
I love that distinction you've made between distraction and interruption, which I had never thought of it like that. I thought everything was just a distraction, because I get distracted so easily.
But it's a good thing. But only if you choose when and with you are being distracted too.
Yeah. Anna, our fourth panelist, she says, I think working from home is easier to control social interactions from an introvert point of view, which for me brings me more comfort. So maybe being able to manage those interruptions. Sorry, Andrea?
Yeah, I'd like to second on what Anna says, but at the same time, Kaylee is bringing an interesting thought here about the different types of creativity, because I feel there are moments in creative work where you need to hone in and curate and work things out, deep dive. And at the same time, I feel a lot of creativity really comes from interaction and comes from different brains building upon each other and so on. And I like the distinction that Kaylee makes, where she says, like, okay, there is a brainstorming workshop environment. We feed off the energy, and where there's just like a real buzz, and that's how ideas get thrown around. And at the same time, you have this other part where you synthesize more, which is both for me part of the creative process.
And Andrea, you are an expert in culture design and now space design. What are some of the things that people can do to make some quick fixes to either their physical space or some of their work processes or rituals or maybe culture, right? What are some of the simple things they can do to start enabling people to feel more comfortable and feel safer?
Very, very wide field. I'll try to answer that. So I feel like on an individual level, it is about knowing yourself. What type of environment really works for me? And we had this discussion with Stephanie yesterday, where it was just like she feels there needs to be a certain messiness in order for her to see the opportunities. And then there are other people who are most at ease when they have complete serenity, no visual distractions or anything. So I feel like it's a lot about how each individual creative ticks. And when it comes to a group setting, I really feel it's a lot about the intention. I feel brainstorming for me is really, really tricky when it isn't well done. I feel there is a real power in combining different brains, but I feel so often we're not doing that process well in terms of the energy that we want to have, in terms of what do we invite in terms of ideas. We often already judge while we should only be generating ideas that are not yet to be judged. So I feel like when it comes to group setting, it is about being really intentional. How do we want to interact with each other? What do we feel at ease with? How much criticism do we allow? Are we like in a setting where, Nirish, I can just tell you, listen, this is bullshit, and you don't take it wrong, and you just feel like, oh yeah, you're right, and you go on? Or are we in a setting where it's like, listen, Nirish, I do have a slight concern about your idea. So I feel it's about being clear about this. So you can then actually not have to think about like, okay, how am I going to tell Leo now that actually I feel this idea needs to be tweaked, but about how I tweak the idea.
Yeah. I mean, Anna and myself and Leo as well, like, we tend to run these ideation workshops to help people generate ideas. And in the beginning of the workshop, we basically encourage lots and lots of ideas. And most of those ideas are pretty shit anyway, but we don't tell people they're shit. Do you need to tell people their ideas are bad, or do you just let them just be,
For me, there's a whole phase that is completely non-judgmental, and often from a really shitty idea comes a really great idea. So I feel you need to allow the shittiness in order to get to the genius. And then I'm not an expert as such. I practice this, but probably Felipe knows more from a research perspective.
Yeah, but what Andrea said is interesting, because I think people normally search for a formula or a magic recipe they can use to operate in the world. But like Andrea said, you have to know yourself, what works best for you, and what we discussed earlier about where you are and what the goal of being there. Like in the office, it could be better to have a lot of ideas, but at home you can curate them and use and make a filter of what is best and what is not. So I think it's understanding how you work, not work like a job, but you work as a person, as a machine, let's say like this. And this understanding brings the answer for a lot of things and make things easier, because once you realize that you work like that, you function like that, it's easier for everyone, because you know that thing is not going to work for you, or that job is not working for you. But in other situations, you can say, okay, I can adapt to it to learn. So I think it's, you have to have a benefit for learning. So I will adapt to this, but because I want to learn something, or I know or feel I can learn something here.
Yeah. So who's responsible for this learning about yourself? Is it yourself, or is it your organization? Is it your manager? Who's responsible for this?
I think in the first degree, it's you always, of course, because you know you. But the second degree, it's the company or where the manager, because they have to offer you opportunities to know yourself better, and of course to grow there, because sometimes you just don't know what to do, and it's not a big problem to search for help, not psychological help, but to turn to others and said, oh, what happened to you, what's your experiences on that topic, like we are sharing here today, we're sharing our experiences. So maybe who is watching is learning something for what we are saying. So this is the process to understand what works and what not. But of course, if you are working somewhere, it's good that that work environment offers you opportunity to discover these things, and like someone said, I forgot the name, experiment what could work and what not.
It was Kaylee who said that.
Yeah, exactly.
So again, you touched upon the responsibility of certain parties here, maybe yourself or maybe your leaders. I'm just going to put up our final poll for the evening, which is whether you think your leaders are authentic and encourage authenticity. And I've got a question for Anna, who's our fourth panelist. You've worked with lots of different organizations of different shapes and sizes. Are there certain types of companies or industries that you feel more comfortable or maybe less comfortable being yourself? And anyone else can answer this as well. Cool. So looks like for most people, the leaders are sometimes authentic and encourage authenticity. What's the role of leaders here? Like, what if you work for a leader who you don't trust? Obviously, one option is to just leave the leader, or if you cannot leave the leader and you're stuck there, what can you do about it?
I feel like my first question is, why are they being inauthentic? Is it a lack of self-awareness, or were they stuck in the system? And I feel like there's a real thing about like mid-careers where people have such big mortgages and everything that they just do not have a choice but have to stick it out. And then there's also this profile of a toxic handler, people that are very high up in the organization and have someone above them who is putting demands on the organization, doesn't role model them, and then basically the person beneath them needs to handle that. And then often they become inauthentic because they have to stretch themselves, keep up the facade, why they see that, the backbone isn't there. So I think that is the crucial question to ask in order to take a decision how you deal with such a leader.
And Leo, how is that different for you to Hong Kong? Because obviously it was a slightly different culture in Hong Kong and maybe like lots of parts of Asia.
Yeah, I think most of the Asia country, they have a very strong view of a level of hierarchy. Like if you are a junior designer, you have to listen to a senior designer, and no matter the senior designer may make a wrong decision.
They're always right.
And most of the junior, they are not really there to challenge the decision or the direction they are going. And that makes a lot of problem to go to a wrong direction and lose a lot of time to do some wrong work. and I did encounter that a lot. So when the time I'm getting a small team for myself, I try to be more open up and to share. Like you're just my teammates, and we are at the same level, and we have a shared different perspective, and we merge them together. And I can't say the outcome will be better, but at least the process we have is more satisfying, and we have a lot to talk about when you go outside to the other people. We have been through a lot of different process, but the whole thing in work culture in Hong Kong, basically, I think is much diverse. I mean, more different from the European country or even the Western country.
Anna has just added, it's not the company she's worked for, it's more of the diversity in the teams and how safe they've made her feel in different companies. That's what matters. So it feels like this is something you can design and create within pretty much any environment, or are you destined to a certain type of culture depending on where you work or what kind of company or industry you work in?
Yeah, I would like to add something about leadership, because it's not an excuse for anyone, of course, but I think it's good to make a thought exercise, because everyone is people. We are all people. So we don't know exactly, like Andrea said, why the leader is doing that behavior, or why they are there in that position. But it's good to understand that they are learning too. Maybe they don't have the same opportunity you have to understand how to be a good leader. And of course, it's not your responsibility to teach them, because sometimes, like Leo said, you can't because they are up in the hierarchy as you. But I think it's our responsibility to, when we get there, when we are the leaders, we change that. This we can control. So be kind with, like Leo said, be kind with your team when you are the leader. Don't matter the size of the team. For example, I didn't want to be in the skin of any politician during the pandemic, because every decision is a bad decision, because nobody know what to do, and of course we always have a backlash for any decision. So I cut some slack for them. I give some credit for them to be brave enough to be there and decide something in the place to decide nothing. But of course, sometimes leaders can have bad choices, can make bad choices.
We're all humans after all.
Exactly.
We're almost out of time. I've got one question for all of you. While I do a little recap of what we just learned, imagine it's your last day on Earth, and I've given you a very tiny piece of paper and said, on that tiny piece of paper, write down one message for humanity, and we'll put that up on a big billboard. Right? Think of what is that one tiny message you want to give to the humanity on your last day on Earth in relation to authenticity and creativity. And while you're thinking of that, I'm just going to do the quick recap of what we just learned today. We talked about how authenticity can be contextual and selective depending on where you are, and you don't have to be fully authentic all the time, right? You're not even fully authentic with your closest of friends. Maybe the trick is to just listen more and get a feel of how the other person is feeling, what they're thinking, and try to accommodate yourself to that as well sometimes. And also being aware of like the neurodivergence of people and embracing that and learning to embrace that intentionally, rather than just saying like what I did, or I don't want to work with them. And just embrace the messiness of being human, right? We are all messy creatures, but there are ways to bring more, again, intentionality and deliberate practice into knowing yourself. Like, what do you like? What drives you? What frustrates you? And trying to maybe take steps to change your situation if it doesn't fully match your needs. So, what have you written down on this tiny piece of paper?
Mine says, I'm all right, you're all right, you're all going to be all right.
Great. Leo or Felipe?
Oh, all right. I hate you, but I love you.
What does that mean?
Well, it's right to the human being, the mankind. I would say 99% of people are assholes. But those messiness and those the chaos we created, underneath there's a lot of beauty inside humanity. So still, I love people.
Yeah. Okay. Great. Anna says social media is the enemy of creativity and authenticity. Destroy all. Okay. I mean, that's a very extreme statement to put on a big billboard, but I definitely get the gist there. Felipe.
I think I will borrow a catchphrase. It's fake until you make it. I think it's a good advice, and it always served me as well.
Okay. So, which means that you're probably not being authentic then.
Until you are.
Until you are. Okay. So
You have
it's
to
situational.
Until you make it.
So whatever you do, it's okay, right? Just accept it and do what you need to do.
Exactly.
Great. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Andrea, Felipe, Leo, and Anna in the chat for your wisdom, your insights, sharing your really authentic and honest thoughts, right? I've certainly learned loads from this, and I hope our attendees also picked up a lot of thoughts from all of you. If you did, yeah, please do mention something in the chat whether you liked it or didn't like it. Happy to hear any of the feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. We will have another event next Thursday as well at midday. This will be the special launch event for Design Feeling, when the Design Feeling podcast will be launched, and we'll have 3 special guests, including 2 guests that I've interviewed for the podcast, and a third guest who has recently written a book about human-powered organizations and how we can bring more humanity into your work. So it's going to be a really fun discussion, and we'll hopefully see you next Thursday. And until then, enjoy your evening and your week, and have a great night.